So a limit order gives you price control. But remember, if you tell your broker, I don't want to go over a certain amount, and the numbers are steady climbing, and you don't see a turning point where it's going to come back down to your number, that order is not going to get filled. That's the only alternative to that, is where with a market order, you don't care what the price is. I just want to fill this order right now. I want to make this transaction. I want to buy or I want to sell. I don't care the price. Do it now. But the limit order is saying, hey, if you can't, I don't care if the price raises and it keeps raising and I never get to make the purchase. I don't care. I want it at this exact price. Okay? So that's the difference between market order and a limit order. All right. Now, back to that example what I used with the pizza for market order. So market order, you go into the pizza shop and you say, hey, I want a pizza right now. I don't care what the price is. Just give it to me right now. That's a market. Okay, with the limit order, you walk into TJP's and you say, hey, I want a pizza no higher than $15. And the worker says, well, our pizzas cost $17 a piece. You say, okay, well, I don't want the pizza. That's the difference between a limit order and a market order. All right, let's keep moving. Now, we're going to introduce in the word slippage. Okay, so this is important in fast trading. So suppose you see TJP's asking price is $10, okay? And that's the seller asking for $10 a share. You submit a market order for 100 shares, but the price moves extremely quickly. Your order actually fills at an average of $10.04. So you expected roughly $10 because you saw that it said TJP's ask price was $10, but remember, it got filled, your order got filled at $10.04. That difference, that 4-cent difference, is the slippage. And now the difference between a spread and a slippage, because remember I said the spread is the asking price minus the bid price. So what the seller is asking minus what the buyer is bidding is the spread. But now we're talking about the slippage, and you're probably like, Tony, that kind of sounds the same. It does sound the same. However, slippage is after the order is filled. Remember, your order is just instructions, but when you fill that order, you executed that order. Like that transaction is complete. So slippage is important because imagine $4 at 100 shares. That might not seem like a lot because that's what a $4 slippage per all your shares. So that doesn't sound bad, but then what if you did 20 cent, a 20-cent slippage at 1,000 shares? That's $200 that you wasn't planning on spending. So that's why slippage is so important. And with spread, like I said, it's what the seller is asking minus what the buyer is bidding. So that's not something that already happened. It's not nothing coming out your pocket. It's just you saying, okay, I might not want that little 4-cent spread or a 40-cent spread at 1,000 shares. But when it comes to a slippage, you're now covering that because the order has been filled. It's been executed. That transaction is complete. All right. Now, something that's very important when it comes to buying and selling. Most new traders think that buying is good and selling is bad. But that's not always the case. So a sale can simply mean I'm closing a position and I'm taking my money. Like, it's the end of the day. My rule was I didn't want any shares from this company today. I wanted to go in and make transactions. I wanted to make at least 2 transactions. So it's coming up on the end of my and I'm not sure if people actually use this rule, but it's coming up on the end of the trading day, and I got shares that I want to sell. So I want to get them out of here. That doesn't necessarily mean a bad thing. It just means those were my rules. But new sellers tend to think that if somebody is buying something, that means good, and if somebody is selling something, that means that it's bad. That's not always the case. So selling is normally how you realize your gains, like your profits. So, for example, you buy 100 shares at $10 a share. The price rise, you sell it. So now the price went from $10 to $10.50. And remember, you bought 100 shares. So 50 cents times 100, you just gained $50. You have a realized gain of $50 once you made that transaction, once you filled that order. But before you sell, that $50 that you could make is called an unrealized gain. And it's unrealized because that order has not been filled yet. It's not executed. It's not within your wallet. So it's unrealized because you have not filled that order. It's not executed. Once you execute that order and that transaction is complete, that $50 is now yours in your wallet. That is a realized gain. So the difference between unrealized and realized is the execution of an order or a transaction being completed. So you can see, like, oh my gosh, if I go ahead and I sell this for if I sell this right now, it went up 50 cents, I could get $50. That's an unrealized gain because you ain't sold it yet. You ain't executed that order. Okay? All right. Now, one distinction that I really have to understand. So suppose I buy 100 shares at $10 and the stock goes up to $12. So it was $10, but after I bought it, it went up to $12. My screen might show a plus $200, and it's like, oh, I got a profit of $200, and no. You're just holding on. You're still holding on to that stock. So if you haven't executed that order or filled that order, executed that transaction, I told you the stock market is moving fast. Somebody could come in and sell they shares for that amount for what that buyer is asking. They could go in and sell their shares, and now the next one that comes up with a bid is only saying, hey, I'm only willing to pay $9, not no $12 like the last buyer. I'm only willing to pay $9. And then you go in and you put in that order, and now guess what? You got a loss because originally you bought those shares at $10 a share for 100 shares, and now you missing out on $1 because now it done went down to $9. So that's the difference between an unrealized gain and a realized gain. That unrealized gain really don't mean nothing because that money not going in your pocket because you didn't fill that order. That transaction ain't complete. Remember that. That's important. And it could either be called an unrealized or realized gain, or an unrealized realized loss, or unrealized realized P&L, profit and loss. Gain is profit, loss is loss, okay?